Greetings, 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 divine and royal greetings, family. Shayola Benta here, along with Coach Shantae
Hey,
and
hey,
Coach
y'all.
Hooray, who is going to remain pictureless today. Those of you that are on IG, feel free to come over onto YouTube so that you can join us. So, what we're going to do is recap 2025. So we are back on this Friday. It is my Earth Day. I'm feeling
Whoop, whoop.
super whoop whoop fantabulous. We definitely had something pre-planned, but then I couldn't get into the email, and I'm like, oh Lord, we need to have something ready to go. And we do. So we're going to be talking about, just all the things that we have experienced either as an individual or collectively as we've been moving through what we know as 2022 or those 12 months. Um, I'm not going to be the extra one to say this is technically not a new year come Sunday, but as it relates to the Gregorian calendar, it is. So I like to look at it as a fiscal year, not necessarily a birthing year. All right, ladies. So who would like to share with us first? What's your recap? What have you learned over the last 12 months? What have
Whew.
you done over the last 12 months that has set the stage for this spiritual year, the number 7, right, of enlightenment and evolution?
Man, 2022 has definitely been a learning year. There have been so much that I've uncovered about myself, about just life, about health and wellness, about just all kinds of things. And I look back over the year, and one of the things that truly stands out to me is I did a lot this year. Last year I had all these grand ideas in December going into January about what my year was going to look like and how I was going to measure my successes and all of these other things. And my year did not go according to that plan, but it went according to a higher plan. And because I was open to just being fluid this year, um, so many positive and amazing things happened in my life, and it allowed me to have experiences that I wouldn't otherwise have considered, and it allowed me to just step into the fullness of myself. The one most important lesson that I can say that I learned this year is we have to value ourselves as ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, whoever, however you came into the world when you were born is the level of value that you have for yourself. The stripped, naked, just me, who I am as an existing being has value, has merit, and everything else is just icing on the cake. And I had to come to that place of just loving and accepting all of me as I am and understanding that, all of the certifications that I pursue don't make me dope. All of the choices that I make about what I put into my body is not what makes me dope. All of the experiences that I have, et cetera, so on and so forth, and all of the things that I don't have, all of the accoutrements that people look at and say, oh yeah, she's successful, or oh she's got it together. Those don't make me dope either. I am dope because I am.
Mm.
And that's been like one of the most freeing, most warm, huggingest type feelings that I have experienced in life. And I definitely attribute a great deal of that to the collective. Just watching you ladies and Dom just walking in your essence and in your element, just being who you are, doing your things. And each of us has our own concept of self that we exist in, and what we bring to the collective is that part of ourselves, and it's always real, it's always raw, and we sharpen one another, and I've appreciated that so much throughout this year. It's definitely been one of those face your fears and look yourself in the eyes and all of that kind of stuff here. So I've grown a tremendous deal this year, and I love it.
That is definitely great to hear, and it's visible. Your
Thank you.
change and your blossoming. So, I'm definitely happy to have had a glimpse into, your world and your expansion and growth. Coach LeRae, are you available to speak? Let's see if she can unmute.
Hi, greetings. Yes, I am.
She's so funny, y'all. What has been how has the last 12 months changed you? And what do you think your biggest lessons were?
Hmm. I would say probably my biggest lessons would be learning to be more patient and definitely trusting the process as opposed to rushing the process.
Mm.
Um, So I've realized that there are a lot of things that, I'm always wanting to do, be involved in, get done, and, just moving at a mile a minute. And more recently, when I had a lot of things going on and I'm just like up against this fictional clock, that I put there, um, I just was being met with a lot of resistance in different areas. And like at first, I'm like, pissy about it. But then as I sat with it, it's like, I can only do the things that are within my control. And also I started to feel more like if I'm speeding through things and moving through too quickly through things, then I could be one, missing things, or moving in the direction that's not in alignment with like ultimately my goals are. So just taking a step back and really just being more in a flow, as opposed to, I don't want to say I'm not giving somebody else the driver's seat, you know what I mean? But
Mm.
maybe being on cruise control a little bit more as opposed to trying to rev up. And so I would say that was probably my biggest. And then honestly, feeling the like sense of relief and release that comes along with that as well. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that. I would say also I've just learned just a lot more spiritually, a lot more about like, health and nutrition. I find myself more recently not counting calories, but, looking at like, well, what's inside of here? Is this protein? Like how much protein versus carbs am I getting, versus,
Right.
all the things. And so now I'm always with like pen and paper and notes and looking up on this website that tells me all the nutritional facts of things. And really just trying to get more like balanced nutritionally wise. Because earlier this year I had that little health scare with me fainting and the anemia, and just understanding that like, okay, yes, you're vegan, but are you eating correctly? It's one thing to just get rid of the meat and dairy. It's another thing to make sure that I'm actually providing my body with the proper nutrients to sustain me. So yeah, just definitely a lot more focused on health, and just confused as to why we haven't been taught this like earlier in life. I'm like, this needs to be a subject in school, a required course in college. Like, I mean, there are just such fundamental things that are vital to our existence, and the maintenance of our mind, body, and spirit, that I've been learning so much about, and then finding out that there's still so much more to learn about, and just feeling really cheated in life, that none of this was revealed to me sooner. But I am grateful, that I do have that knowledge and understanding now. And I'm grateful to this collective for sure, because you guys keep me accountable, keep me in the know, and are just my soul sisters on top of it. So, yeah, I'm
Hey.
excited. I don't think normally I spend the end of the new year, like a week up to the new year. I'm like, oh, let me plan for 2023. The next year I got my new planner, my pens. I literally spent every New Year's Eve, like where people are like, oh, I'm going out, I'm doing this. I'm like, I'm going to be with my planner and my pens and my Post-its, and I'm about to kill it for, this next year.
Right.
But I realized this year I didn't even buy a planner yet. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, that's not what I'll be doing, for the new year. But instead of me being so, like, I guess, structured and like, I don't know, like analytical and stuff with my planning, I have realized, like, I took a step back and was like, you know what, I am going to make a plan for next year, but not one that's very rigid. Like, oh, this is a goal, it needs to be finished by this date, blah, 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 whatever. More like, okay, what are your spiritual goals for 2023? What are your, health goals for 2023? What are your financial goals for 2023? And then just kind of figuring out, how and when I want to tackle them as, like, the time and opportunity presents itself. So I'm going rogue in 2023, and I'll let y'all know how I go.
She said she going rogue in 2023. We hear that. We hear
Nothing
that.
wrong with it at all.
Not at all. Listen, y'all know I'm about to go rogue here in a couple of days. Greetings, greetings. Those that are coming in on Instagram, those that are with us on Facebook and YouTube. Coach Lorraine mentioned finances. I see that one of our sisters, Paradise Elohim Victory, has joined us. She's a part of our wealth building family, as all of us here, so that has been a big goal for me. And the one thing that I've learned as it relates to building is you have to know who you're building with and what position they hold, right? When you're building, let's say, a skyscraper, those that are coming in to lay the finishing touches on the decor are not the same persons or things that are laying the foundation. They're not the contractors that are coming in to do the electrical work or the piping and things to that nature. So understanding who you're building with and how you're building is pivotal. And I have always been one that's, let's build, let's go. But it's like, Shay, okay, well, you have not necessarily, you got to make sure you have the right parts in the right places in order for this structure to be built in the most authentic way. And of course, those kinds of things are based on math and science. And I think that in this case, it is too. Knowing, the earth sign, rising sign, moon sign, even the galactic signature of the people that you're working with is necessary, because then you get a great understanding of the personalities in which you're working with, including your own. So rather than it be like a push and pull, is more of a harmony. I remember, I think it might have been Coach Shantae that said, we're all going to be at different spaces and places, as it relates to maybe the enthusiasm or the laid backness that's needed in a particular season. So I've learned, much like Coach Lorraine, to be patient and to listen more than I am speaking. I'm so ready for 2023 in that my goal is to practice more silence so that I can hear more. And I was striving to do this 31-day challenge of 31 days of wealth building. And I realized in that challenge, I do not like going live every day. I don't like being, it just doesn't feel great, and of course, I always have something to say, but I know that the things that I have to say really aren't always for a public platform. So, that's kind of been a thing. But I am looking forward to growing in love and business and missionship with TED Collective. Shout out to King Dom. You know, he is our, and will always be our divine masculine in the space. We just appreciate, you know, all that has, I got to move over, all that has come through, you know, over these last 12 months. For us, it definitely wasn't anything that was really planned, right? We kind of, right? We were just in a space and we realized that, okay, y'all, we have to keep going. We have to keep going because, as you know, Coach LaRae said, why aren't these things taught in elementary school, high school, you know, college? Some of us go a whole lifetime not really understanding ourselves, our body, how it works, how to listen, how to do all the things. So I'm just grateful that you all have decided to stick and stay because, you know, people may say things like, I'm self-made. I'm like, all right, y'all. You can do nothing on your own. You can do nothing on your own. And we have to have community in order to build. And another thing that I realize is that I have no interest. I have zero interest, zero, in building with a go along to get along gang. Like, and I feel that I have to say that because I found myself in spaces like really going along to get along. And there's really no need for that. So I just won't. So I'm happy to come into my number 7, 43. Like, y'all, I cannot believe that I am 43. I legit feel 23. Hey,
Hey.
And you look good, ma'am. You know, you are giving all the youth. So go ahead and claim that.
It must be massaging those salads is what's doing it for you.
Listen, massaging the salads, talking to my food, talking to, you know, just really giving thanks. I don't know if I've always been in tune. I think I might have said this to y'all once. When I was a child, I had this sensation come over me. My grandmother used to travel with us a lot. And I thought, if I'm on this plane, nothing will happen to this plane. It won't, because I'm on it. And I'm one of the ones that became a flight attendant after 9/11. And I remember people feeling like, or even telling me, you sure you want to do that? You sure you want to be a flight attendant after everything that was happening? Like, yeah, I need to be up in the clouds. I need to have that experience. So I'm the one that does probably the opposite of what people will do, typically speaking. So thank you for allowing me to share that. Now we are moving or in the midst of a galactic cosmic shift. Can y'all feel it? Can you feel the elevation? You may be called, or you may be feeling things that you have not felt before, or you may have felt them before, but you really didn't move on it. So, you know, January is going to be a very slow month. So as Coach LaRae was saying, like, she hasn't gotten her planner yet and all the things. Don't rush it. Take your time, especially in the month of January, just to kind of reflect so that you can hear. You know, I know that we have gotten into a lot of different mythological stories, right? But winter really is a time for hibernation. It's a time for us to go within so that we can be ready for the harvest, right? So don't feel, I gotta get and for heaven's sakes, you don't have to do all this resolution, because the truth of the matter is most people are lying to themselves because most people quit things, right? So you want to be pragmatic. You want to be authentic and sensible. Of course, you want to plan and dream big, but we want to be sensible and don't feel the need to do what everybody else is doing. You know, we really get into that habit. Oh, you know, I got to do this because everybody else is doing it. That's probably what you shouldn't be doing because everybody else is doing it. Absolutely. So how do y'all feel about this cosmic shift?
There's a lot of things that are happening now that I am allowing myself the awareness of. And when I say allowing myself the awareness of, remember when I was talking about the value that we have as people just simply from existing. Once I got that key piece together, it opened up so many other things. And I'm able to look at certain things and say, oh, that's pretty interesting. I would never have noticed that before because I would have been so busy staring over here like, oh, Shantae, you got to fix that. You got to get that right. You need to have this because if you don't have this, you're not going to be able to get that and that and that and that and that and all of these distractions going on because I'm focused on everything that's not instead of everything that is. So the shift is going to come. You know, we're all going to have the experiences that we're going to have. We have the ability to chart our own path. And I think I had stated this yesterday, whatever the astrological readings and things are for 2023 and what everybody's projections are and the celestial bodies are doing and all of those things matter. And we have to be in that state of flow because this is the first year that I have truly experienced being in that flow and just going along with the natural flow that I exist in. The way that and this, I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna let somebody else talk. The way that we experience the flow and the elevation and the all the other realms of life depends solely on our personal vibration and how we are doing what we need to do to keep our own frequency and vibration high and to raise the frequency and vibration of the collective. The more of those things that you do, the more positive the experience that you have is. It does not mean that every single solitary thing is going to be dipped and dripped in honey and cinnamon. But what it does mean is that you will be able to find honey and cinnamon in any situation you find yourself in because that's the vibration that you're on. As that flow is coming, as it's washing around you, as you're within it, you're still able to exist in that space of expectancy, of gratitude. If you find yourself not feeling that every single solitary moment of the day, check in. That's feedback for you to check in with yourself. What's going on with yourself? What you got going on, girl? Talk to me. And when you get that feedback and you know what you have going on, you can course correct. Because this year has definitely thrown a few curveballs. But like I said, this is the first year that I can see that I have truly been in flow, and I'm so grateful for it. So I'm looking forward to just putting these newfound skills into use more and more as we move into the next calendar year and all that comes with it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. I love your accent.
Thank you.
Just straight out of Alabama, y'all. Just love it. Coach Lorraine, do you have anything to add? I do want to do a community collective reading as it relates to our elements.
Oh no, I got something to add.
Look, I know that's right. I want to make sure that you are heard before I go into all of that.
Yes, please, because this is actually very, very personal too. So I'm about to share with y'all. So for me, I always hear people talking about like, oh, when things are happening cosmically and a shift and this, and you might be feeling this and yada, yada, blah. And I'm like, I think this is actually the first time that I was feeling all these things and then hearing about it afterwards. And I'm like, that's very interesting. Like, okay, I'm a part of this shift now. So that was very exciting to learn. But one of the things that I realized I have been shifting from is, so as healthily as I eat, I'm horrible when it comes to substances, right? So I do drink and I do engage in plant medicine. But one of the things I did notice earlier on, or not early on, but maybe like the last month or two, was like this lack of a desire to partake in cannabis. And so it was like weird. It kind of started off with like, maybe it's not really doing so much for me versus, or sometimes it's just putting me straight to sleep, or I don't know, it don't taste right. It feels like too much work to, even do the whole process. It was just like a lot of like, I'm like, okay, maybe I just need to go in ahead. And for a while I was fighting myself against it because I'm like, no, this is what we do. You know what I mean? So it was like, this is what we do. So, once the desire or the lack of desire to do it became stronger, I'm like, you don't have to do this. Like, there's nobody putting a gun to your head. Like, you could definitely just stop or do it when you do actually feel like doing it. It's not this habit that you have to, engage in all the time. And so the other thing for me was drinking. And so I'm like, I don't drink often, but when I do drink, I drink a lot. Right. And so, I realize most of it is it's very much like a social thing. And there's this notion, and it reminded me, Shayla, when you were saying about not doing what other people are doing, right? And I'm like, I realize that when I'm in social settings, it's like a thing. Everybody's drinking. And it's like almost to the point where if you're like, no, I don't want to drink, and they're like, you don't drink, like why? And it's like, oh my goodness, like am I not allowed to not drink? But I started doing the opposite and like ordering first, like when I was in groups with people, and I would realize that it was that same thing with them. It was like, oh, because I didn't order a drink. Now they're like, oh, well, I guess I shouldn't be drinking, because she's not drinking. And I'm like, oh, this is like really strange to watch. Like, because people have that same thing of like just wanting to be a part of, what other people are doing and part of the crowd. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I know now when I go out, especially with my people who drink, like I'm order first, let me get some water, look, and a ginger ale, and just kind of see how that social experiment continues to go. But I actually I not crazily, but I signed up for they do AA classes on Zoom. And I was like scared to try it because I'm like, I don't know if I qualify. I was like doing a lot of research on like, oh, what are alcoholics or functioning alcoholics? What are the levels like drinking problem versus, alcoholic, all of the things. And so I'm like, whatever, I don't have time for all of this because everything would say something different or fall on some different scale. So I was like, I'm going to just go because apparently there's no guidelines or restrictions for signing up to, the classes. And so I went to one and I'm like, everybody's like super nice and super supportive. And then I was hearing a lot of similarities in some of their experiences and stories. So I was like, damn it, maybe I am an alcoholic, but I appreciate like the community and the support. So I'm like not going to get into all of that. But the thing is, what I'm saying, like that shift that I feel like I'm finally making and that it won't even be like so difficult. Because I've done things where I'm like, oh, I'm not going to drink for, 6 months or 3 months. And it's like, oh, it's not a big deal. But, I pick back up like I never left it. And so like this time, and I think it's more because I'm becoming a lot more educated and in the know as it relates to nutrition. And it's like, you can't be out here doing all the things, eating vegan, doing yoga, exercises. And it's like, oh, but I'm gonna have me some Hennessy tonight, like it's just, counterproductive. But so that's, that's the shift I'm really looking forward to like owning and stepping into, as this new year comes. But that's my share.
Listen, we right? Thank you so much for your transparency because we know that there are others out there that may feel the same. I'm doing this and that, but I'm also doing this. And, shout out to my grandmother who was the one that implanted in me upon her transition to follow the 7. She loved her Hennessy. And I realized that, if it is something to where you have to take in the spirits, that you're doing it in a spiritual nature, not to be all spiritually, but we have to understand that when we're in crowds of people who are also taking in spirits, a lot of mixing and mingle going on, and we don't want to get caught up in that vibration if it is not meant for us. So just give me one moment, y'all. Carry on. I need like 1 minute. I'll be right back to the platform.
Carry on. So I just want to ask a question of Coach Lorraine. Throughout 2022, there have been so many different experiences that you had, that you shared, that you've been a part of. Of all of the experiences that you've had thus far,
Does any one of those experiences, whether it's a trip, a speaking engagement, any of those things, is there any one trip in particular that kind of stood out more to you than another? And if so, why was
Mm. Oh man, that's a good question. I'm like, let me think about it for a second.
it?
Okay, so what I would say, yes, there is one. And so I'm going to try to be as discreet as possible about it because I don't want to come for nobody, right? But
Don't come for nobody. Please don't do it.
right. So I did have an experience where I was a part of, I guess you could say, another collective of people who were on a spiritual journey. And there was just a lot of chaos, a lot of ego, a lot of cattiness, a lot of just like it made me feel very much like, ooh, like I don't know about this like if this is what people are doing and carrying on, maybe this is not something I want to be a part of. It made me feel very grateful to have people like you guys. And when I went through, Sacred Woman Rites of Passage, to have met those like sacred women and everything, to know that like, because if this was my first introduction into like, this journey, I would have been like, oh yeah, I'm better off where I'm at, like I'm good here.
Right.
And so in that process, it taught me a number of things. One of them was because initially I wasn't going to do it at all, right? But then I kind of got guilted into, carrying on with the journey. And I said, okay, fine, I'll do it. But then there was like things that were happening that were kind of like more red flags. And then when it got to be too much, I was like, okay, no, I'm out of here. And so it made me understand like how much I need to really trust myself and my instincts. Because I was like, I really did say I was not going to do this. And I allowed other people's opinions and influences to get me to do it. And it turned out, I didn't even, go through with the entire process either. And the more important thing that it taught me was that I realized that so I'm somebody who like, I love school, I'm like, oh, you put a book in front of me, let me get some notes and, all the things, I'm ready. That I was like possibly becoming like some sort of junkie of like spirituality and like, yeah, right, like mastery of self, you know what I mean? And so I'm like, oh, all these resources and people do all these things, like sign me up. And it taught me more than anything. It was like, you know what, you've done enough of this for enough time and enough research that like you need to start trusting yourself in this process as opposed to leaning on other people, organizations, and other things to get you there. Because it was almost like I was looking for, not for people to hold me accountable as much as I was like looking for them to like get me there, you know what I mean? And it's like, you're already equipped, so now is the time for you to really, really trust spirit, trust my divine self, and like really get to this work. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it did. And I'm so grateful that you brought that point to the forefront because Shayola, you shared a message from, I think it was Lloyd Strayhorn, when he was talking about the upcoming year, 7 year, and there's going to be a lot of spirituality this year. A lot of people making spiritual decisions, whether that is to, get heavier into the church, go back into the church, go deeper into whatever other spiritual practice they have. But there are going to be so many people transitioning into and out of spiritual spaces this year. That is going to be a key component. I put ingredient and component together. It's not, that's not what I was trying to say. It's going to be a key component of your spiritual journey to know that everybody that is saying, I'm spiritual, I'm whole, y'all, all the, I don't know that whole situation.
Love and light.
And saying all of the things are not necessarily going to be your people. And it is absolutely okay if you have to bounce from place to place to place to place. Because just like with, finding a practitioner, whether it is a holistic practitioner or a therapist or whatever else you may need, you have the ability to find the people that you're meant to be with. Trust yourself. Let your spirit of discernment be developed. If you're in a space and your spirit tells you that that's where you're meant to be and you have a negative experience, lean into that lesson. Figure out what you're supposed to learn from it. Glean that out of it. Use your spirit of discernment and say, all right, now, can we dip out on these people, or do we need to stay here? Are we supposed to correct something here? What do we do? And just lean into that. But don't go into this next leg of your spiritual journey thinking that, oh, yes, the first thing I land on, this is it. This is my long haul. And then when it doesn't work out, you're like, oh, specifically for some people, I'm going back to the church because that's the devil out there. Those people are just, because it's just as many devilish folks off in the sanctuary. Hallelujah. Let's
You know
what? Going into the future.
I mean, that's so real. That's so real. Divine and royal greetings, Luna Love. Thank you for coming in. That's our sister Chocolate out here in Richmond, Virginia. I think that that's such a pivotal point, right? We have to start looking at the soul of people and not the avatar that they come with or even their spirit, because we typically meet their representative first. And it takes time to really and I don't even want to say to get to know a thing, but it takes time to get to know a thing. And everything that glitters ain't gold, and all skin folk ain't kinfolk. So, and we have to be, we just have to be vigilant as it relates to our own path and journey. As Coach Shantae was saying, it may not necessarily, the first thing that you land on may not be for you. You want to keep your ears and your eyes open and allow yourself to oh,
I think Shayla has clicked the button. Oh no,
I did.
Okay, I was about to say, oh
no. Child, you know me and these computers. Look, this is why I need to take a break. I need to get it together. But really, just say it again, sis.
You need to go into the mountains or something.
Girl, I'm really, really ready for it. But just be careful, be mindful. You know, if you're whatever it is that you're reading, read it from an open mind, read it objectively, not subjectively. Don't take in so many of other people's commentary. You know, I made a video earlier in the month where I said something like, I'm no longer going to allow influence, affluence, or appearance to sway a decision-making process, because again, I have seen some things over these last years, and it is quite scary what lengths, you know, people will go through. So just eyes and ears open. So real quick before we wind down on time, let's just do this collective reading, and I'll also just pull one card if we have time for that. And to prepare for this, we're just going to take 3 deep breaths so that I could pick up on the collective consciousness. Make sure that your hands and your feet are uncrossed so that there are no, you know, the energy just travels in a straight line. All right, so we're going to take that first deep breath. We're going to breathe in for a 4 count, hold the breath for a 4 count, and release the breath for a 4 count. Here we go. Deep breath in. Hold on to the breath and gently release the breath. Deep breath in. Hold on to the breath. And gently releasing the breath. Deep breath in. Hold on to the breath. And release the breath. As I go through each element, you'll be able to hear what it is that I'm asking for. If it resonates with you, then, you know, take heed. If it doesn't, move along. All right. So I'm going to use a pendulum, and depending on the direction in which the pendulum swings will let me know whether or not an area of the collective is positive, neutral, or adverse. Of course, we are looking for all positivity, but we know we got to go through some things before we can get there. All right, so we're starting off with the right brain, left brain, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, intestines. Moving on to the air element, right lung, left lung, communication, diet. Moving on to our fire element, reproductive space, blood, intuition. Moving on to our water element, how's our heart? How are we feeling? Our emotions, nervous system, bladder, urinary tract, liver. Moving on to our earth element, are we grounded? Are we stable? How's our ascending colon? How's our descending colon? How are our bones? How are our bowel movements? All right. So it is showing that we have a positive flow in our mental capacity. So we want to continue with the high-minded thoughts versus, the negative things. So continue to lean in to the positivity of life. Continue to lean in what is serving you. Release the things, really. I know it's kind of cliche-ish. We say that a lot, but really we have to decolonialize ourselves. And I'm not just speaking to highly melanated folks, but folks around the globe. We all have melanin within us, and it's time for us to really work and treat that melanin so that it shows up as its highest expression. The air element, though, came back completely adverse across the board. So it's showing that some of us are holding on to our throat chakra is clogged, blocked. That can be, albeit the result of constipation, either emotional or physical. Mucus is backed up into the throat area. It's showing that our communication is off, and it's also showing that our diets are off. So we want to pay attention to this element, drinking more, let's say lime water. I would say lemon more than lime. Lime can be less acidic than lemon. We want to take in our citruses. I heard somebody say, with the soil that we have now, it takes like 6 oranges just to get the nutrition of one. So you want to make sure that we're getting our citruses in. We want to make sure that we're speaking our truth. Even if we have things that we need to say to people and we don't have the space to say it, we don't feel safe to say it or comfortable to say it, it's cool. Just write it down in your journal or a piece of paper just to remove that energy from the throat. Then you can burn it thereafter. But we have to become comfortable with speaking our truth. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be outside of ourselves. Or to that person, I would say, but you definitely want to write it. And the best way to solve things, ignite communication, is to write it down first so that you can see what it is that you're working with. The diet, y'all, we already know. We really have to get into, and this is not a push for plant-based, veganism, none of that. What it is a push for is for us to become more conscious of the things that we're putting in our body. We can't keep praying over the pork chops and saying, well, this is what it is. No, it doesn't have to be, because we're no longer in the space and time where we have to take the scraps and make, things happen. You are being encouraged. Well, I'll read that when we get further along in. So again, the lungs, we have to take care of our lungs. If we're smoking, we want to really take a break from it, but we want to get some mullein into our system. That herb helps to clean out, cleanse, fortify, and all the great things. We want to watch our communication or lack thereof. We want to speak our truth. And we want to make sure that our diet is better than it has been the last 12 months. As it relates to the fire element, many of us are in need of a detox. It's showing that the blood is not really what's popping in the streets, right? So if you have been really just eating and doing whatever, remember the blood, it's all in the blood. It is all in the blood, and they know that. So we have to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to cleanse and clean out. We are having our very first spring detox in March. So stay tuned for that. If you want to ride with us, you can. As it relates to the reproductive space, I'm showing a lot of mucus, a lot of backup. So the pastas, the white pasta, white sugar, white flour, white rices, all those things we really have to cut out because it's clogging us up. Right. And the reproductive space obviously is not only a space for babies, but for businesses. And if it's clogged up, then, what are we really doing? So we want to pay attention to that. Our intuition is a bit off, right? The intuition is off because the blood is off. The blood carries messages. And if your blood is all over the place, then trust and believe the intuition will be all over the place too. It shows that our hearts are open though. Our hearts are in the right place. We want to continue with operating from the heart space. Don't let nobody tell you different. I know we've been saying, don't listen to what everybody is saying. We still hold true to that. But in this new earth that we're moving into, we have to be operating from our heart space. We can't keep raping, pillaging Mother Earth for resources and money and think that she's going to continue to take it, because she's not. So if you are in a space where you chasing and trying to rape, and it may not look like that for you, but we want to make sure that we are really getting into the heart space. As it relates to our earth element, it shows that we are grounded and we are stable, but we are backed up. We are backed up physically and emotionally. Both the ascending colon and the descending colon are showing that it's completely impacted. So in this space, I'll recommend things like colonics, even enemas to do at home. You want to do more oil-based dressings and foods, things of that nature to help move the matter and pass it out. The bones need nourishment. That's your skeletal structure. So if our bones are not boning up, okay, y'all, we subject to fall. And then our bowel movements are not happening as often as they need to happen, which is an indication that, again, we are backed up. We're backed. That means that we're full of shit at the end of the day. So if you know that you have not had a colonic, if you have not within, I would say, the last 5 years, and that's a lot of food, y'all. I had a client earlier in the week, she said that she only goes to the bathroom twice a day. If you're eating 3 times a day, then that means that there is still a meal in you. And if that's your pattern for 7 days, then that means that at the end of the week, you still have 7 undigested meals in your stomach. So you want to make sure that you are doing all the things. If you need support on your journey, the TED Collective is here just for this. And all of us do these tune-ups. We do these energy readings just to see where you are and how you can position yourself. Now, some people, I feel an energy of, oh, this feels like spookism. This ain't for you then. Okay. We're not here to convince nobody of our talents, our skills, and our gifts. So, but I'm going to pull this one card just to see where we are as a collective, what we can focus on. All right. Negativity. So I would say we have to really, I don't know if y'all can see that. We have to really, and even in Capricorn season, we're being called to move from our negative thoughts, because we could get into our own mind sometimes and it'd be a whole story and be like, where you get that from? I'm like, I don't know. We have to not place focus on the negativity, but shift the balance to positivity. As Coach Shantae was saying earlier today, we really have to focus on the things that we need, something to the sort for ourselves. So let me just read this for you real quick. And then we'll have the other practitioners come in with their closing. But meanwhile, does that resonate with anyone? Any feedback? Anybody?
I
As my
don't
head
want
is
to put
down.
my pasta Shayola.
You
I
said
use brown rice pasta. Do I have to
you
do
said
I
you
put my brown rice?
well, you're gonna, I mean, I don't want to be the person that's, raining on parades, but brown rice is up there with white rice. So we're gonna have to
Oh,
slowly come off of that as well. I know. I don't want to be the one to have to say it.
maybe
But
I'll do some chickpea pasta.
Yeah,
okay.
that one
Okay.
is not that great in my opinion. I have the pasta problem too, but I did decide for at least first quarter I was giving it up. So I've
Well,
definitely been throwing it down for the last couple days, though. I'll tell you that. So,
okay.
and I
Okay.
will be starting the new year off with the colonic. But I do thank you for providing this. It was your gift to us, and it's your birthday. So
That's
that was so nice.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm happy that it resonated. It looks like Chocolate said she received it as well, so we say thank you. So here is the reading for Five of Crystals, which is negativity. The mind has the cutting properties of the crystal. Your mental sharpness can cut down, slay, and negate. Like the broken crystal, your negative mind is the defeatist and critical. You interpret events negatively, seeing tornadoes, valleys, floods, and quakes everywhere. Your negativity creates confusion, chaotic crystals, narrow mindedness, dark crystals, dullness, opaque crystals, and disillusion, fool's gold crystals. But the same negative mind gives you the ability to slay your negativity. So, again, we want to just shout out to Sister Kateria Knows. She said something earlier in the week. I think I might post this tomorrow, but she's no longer giving readings for this world, this calamity. We already know it's all doomsday for doom, 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 and we know that that's not the case. We know that this is a blink of an eye on our timeline to greatness, right? This is just a pit stop for us to recalibrate and get ourselves together. So don't fall prey to the fear and the negativity of what the colonizers want us to believe is happening, because we have with our minds the ability to shift that if we are willing, right? Everybody, if you do your part in your household, your own individual work, everybody doing that, well, everyone that was sent here to do that, we'll be good. So again, we're not paying attention. Shayola, let me speak for myself. I'm not paying attention to the avatar of a person. I can really care less about the avatar. That's what I've learned over these 43 years. I can care less about the avatar that somebody comes in. I'm paying attention to your soul, and I'm giving some attention to your spirit. But I'm no longer in the vibration of just one group of people, which I did for a very long time, because a lot of people, I'm just going to say people, have been corrupted, and some of them won't come back. And some of those people may be our family and friends. And we have to be okay with knowing that there's nothing that you could do for certain types of folks. So anything else to add before we close out?
My closing thought is to back off what you said. I did my year ahead reading, and I took my time with the interpretation. And I know that this upcoming year, one of the main themes that kept coming up was mind magic, mental magic. This is going to be a year where you're going to really need to understand your own mind.
That's
and
right.
really understand your own spirit so that you can deeply influence your own household, your own life into whatever arena you need to. Because again, whatever is going on without and around does not have to dictate what goes on within. It really does not. This right here is called your Ori in certain circles. When you know how this thing works, and you understand how to influence this thing right here, there are so many amazing things that you can do. One resource that I'm going to be leaning heavily into this year is Shara Prophet of Open Door Hypnosis. She combines her hypnosis theory, like she's a certified a hypnotherapist, or excuse me, hypnotist.
Mm-hmm.
I always get those two terms confused. And she fuses that in with magic and mysticism. So she talks about, all the different deities and things and how you can utilize the crystals and different herbs and things to create your own, hypnosis, your own mental magic to influence your own world. So I'm going to be leaning really heavily into Shara's teachings and everything this year to fully understand my own mind, my son's mind, how we can come together to create what we desire within the household that we live in, because there are some absolutely amazing things that are happening in the world because I said so. So I'm tuning deeply into that. And I just looked over to Luna and she said lentil pasta is good. I disagree.
I saw that too. Now, listen, I love me some lentil pasta. You just have to know how to
give it another try, right? Because I tried it like 2 or 3 times. I tried lentil spaghetti, and every single time I thought I was following the directions on the box, and it just was a clump. It was one noodle every time.
It'll do that. Here's the key to lentil pasta, real quick, because I know we gotta go. When you have to, one, I break it like regular spaghetti, and you want to have it on a high boil. Just don't put too much oil in the water, a couple of drops, and your salt. And you have to continuously stir, because if you don't, it will bind and clump together. So high heat, a little oil, and when I say a little, maybe 2-3 drops, salt, and you stir. And it really it doesn't have to be al dente. It will be al dente if they have binded together or they haven't had enough time to boil. But a medium heat ain't gonna do the job. Gotcha. It should be a high heat.
I'll try it again.
Okay, as long as you're open to trying it again. All right, Coach Lorraine, anything to add before we close out?
No, not especially. I just hope that you enjoy your day and that everyone has a fantabulous new year, and that 2023 brings them all of their wildest dreams.
I'm gonna start mine off with a float bath. I can't wait. So
that's amazing.
We say thank you so much for tuning in to the last call of 2023. We'll come back next year with so much more, and we cannot wait to grow in love and compassion and overstanding with you all. Peace, love, and hope.